As the nights fade on and the winter darkness creeps in, many local anglers turn their attention to squid fishing here in Jersey and our neighbouring islands. These strange creatures from the cephalopod family roam close to our shores in search of food in their huge shoals, making some exciting fishing for all. It's not hard to fish for them. A simple rig with 1 or 2 jigs can do the job on most nights, but a bit of bling can always enhance your catch rate. I'm going to show you some of my favourite techniques and rigs for fishing for squid. Nothing special, just simple and effective rigs that have worked for me over the years. These rigs can consist of jigs with rattles, silent jigs, jigs that change colour, but also jigs with lights and a bit of bling on them. I'm going to show you 3 of my favourite rigs, including a float setup, a 2 jig rig and the Bling Rig. So to start off with, we're going to make the 2 jig rig. 1 jig suspended above another. Very simple, very effective. My go-to rig for squid fishing. No bling attached, nice and simple. It's going to consist of 2 jigs, 3 clips, 2 bits of line and 1 simple boom knot. I'm going to use a main rig body which is about 40 pounds, nice and strong. Doesn't really matter on colour, but I'm going to split the 2 colours up so you can see how the knot works. I'm going to cut off about 3 foot of this impact and then 3 foot of the same in my 25 pound. Once you've got your 2 lengths, match them up side by side, making sure the 2 top lengths are together. Then about 6 or 7 inches down, hold the 2 lines together, push them together to make a loop. Very simple. With the top end, this is why I've asked you to put 2 bits close together, come through the back and pull, binding it together. Do the same 2 more times. And there you have it. A loop and thatch together 3 times. Both lines always together. And what you're going to do is pull with both ends, making it nice and tight. If you want to, you can wet it and pull. And what that's going to do is going to bind them together and make a boom knot. As you can see, you've now got 4 kind of legs like a spider. And what we're going to do is we're going to bind our jigs to it. For our main body, we're just going to add a simple clip to it using a blood knot. And just clip the edge. So there you have it. Now on the leg that's coming off, we're going to add a jig to it. It's preference on how long you want this. I keep it quite short, just so the bottom jig never gets stuck on it. Also, instead of attaching it straight to the actual squid jig itself, I like to put a clip here, just because if the squid are feeding on something different or a different colour, you can quickly change it over. Simple and effective, cutting down your time of messing around and having your jigs in the water. And there you have it. For the bottom, we're going to keep the main line, the main body, and what we're going to do is just snip the bottom line. Don't snip it too close, just snip it away. And then I'm going to burn it just to make sure it sits nicely. And then on the end, I'm going to put another clip, also for another squid jig to attach to. Preference on the knot, I like to either use a fisherman's knot or a blood knot. Again, clip off the excess, and there we have it. Top clip, bottom clip, and the boom. What I'm going to do Again, it's all down to preference, but I always find having a small jig at the top works well, and then on the bottom we have a large jig. Reason: if the squid are preying and eating on smaller prawns and fish, why would they go for a bigger one? Always mix it up, have it different combinations. If they're going for a big one, you can put 2 bigger jigs on. If they're going for a small one, put 2 smaller jigs on. But always have the availability with the clips to change over and mix it up. So there we have it, the 2 squid jig rig. Very easy, very effective, and it works. The next rig I'm going to make is the 1 jig Bling Rig. Very effective, also works as well as the 2 jig rig, but this time we're going to add some bling. Sometimes on those rough nights, very windy, the water's waving around, the water conditions and the coloration in the water is a little bit darker. You need something with that little bit of extra attractant to bring those squid in. So what we're going to use are these float sticks. We're going to use a starlight above a jig, maybe a couple of luminous beads, and this is going to attract those squid on those rougher, cloudier water nights. Can really bring the squid in when it's not happening at all. Again, going to use a nice strong line. Preference again, this time it's going to be about 2 foot in length. Cut that off. As always, attach it to a clip so it's nice and easy to clip onto your main line, and I'm going to use a blood knot and snip it, and there you have it. Then I'm going to use one of these starlights, and these come with a little tube, 2 in a pack. You've got to crack them to get them to work, but inside they have a little tube. What we're going to do is we're going to thread that line through the tube so it sits on it. Very simple. And just slide it up. We're just going to leave that for now. On the main end, I'm going to thread these small luminous beads. These are lit up and they glow when you put light on them, like your head torch. As you can see, they thread nicely on. Again, a clip. And we'll do a blood knot. And just snip the end again. So there you have it. Business end, the tube, and some beads. So what's going to happen with this tube is we're going to thread this little light through it. It can be quite tricky, but once it's through, it works. So it sits on the line like this. You do need to crack the light by bending it and breaking it, and that will light it up. It'll be lovely and luminous. We're not going to do that quite yet. I'll do that a little bit later. And then on the business end, as always, we're going to attach a squid jig. So there you have it. The 1 hook Bling Rig. A couple of luminous beads to help. Your jig, about 1 foot above it. Tubing with a little light. That light can be really, really key to catching them on those dark, gloomy, when the water's colourful winter nights. And there we have it. The 1 hook Bling Rig. The last rig I'm going to show you and set up is your conventional squid jig float rig. Another simple but effective rig that works really, really well. Just going to need a float, obviously the weight, which is a little bit lighter than the recommended, a couple of small swivels, a bead, and obviously a squid jig or a squid needle. I'm going to have my float fixed. I like to have it about 8 foot below the surface, so I'm not going to actually have a float stop above. As you can see, I've already put 2 holes in the top of my float. This is for starlight lights to go into, so you can easily see it in the dark. Nice little tip there. So what we're going to do is we're going to have our main line of the rig, or the main body of the rig, and I'm going to tie this straight to a swivel. As I say, this is going to be a fixed float setup. And then for this, it's going to be about 3 foot long, and we'll snip again. Next, that little bead, thread that on, and then through the top of the float, through the hole, thread this through. Braid, if you're using braid, can be a little bit harder. I use mono. It goes straight through, and there you go, it's come out the other side, and pull all the way to the top. And as you can see, that bead just protects that swivel from being pulled through. Next, the float weight, and then a bead. So next, bead, and then swivel. What that bead does, when that weight's clunking around in the water, it protects the knot that sits above the swivel. Again, I'm going to use a blood knot, nice and simple but effective, and just snip away. So there you have it at the moment. Your weight, your bead, your swivel, and then on the business, a float, bead, swivel, starlight drilled into the top. Then again, this time I'm going to put about 5 foot of line. Again, blood knot, probably sick of me saying that, and tie up. Remember, clip off your end, keep it tidy, and then on the business end, I'm going to put a small clip, but this time I'm going to use a snap swivel clip, as you can see, and we're going to tie that on, blood knot. Now the reason I use this rig, if there's not many people around or you're on your own, you want to cover some ground. Sometimes the bigger squid can be really locked on to bait and food, not a moving jig. So leaving this out bobbling around with a bait on it can be really effective. At the end, as you can see, there's a little eye. We're just going to hook that on, like so. Pop that over, and there you go. Your bait will thread onto this, a bit of bait elastic to wind it on so it doesn't fall off. But if you do have a problem where the squid are ripping it off, change over to a smaller squid jig. Do the same, wrap the bait around it with a bit of bait elastic. Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. So we've got the bait needle, about 5 foot of line, to a swivel, to a bead, to the weight, to the float, again a bead, and then a swivel, which your main line attaches to. The fixed float squid jig setup, again super effective, covers ground, so while you're squid jigging with one rod, you can have this around. Light for indication, so you can see that fly down when a big squid takes it. And there you have it. There you have it. 3 simple and effective ways to go squid jigging. You've got the 2 squid jig rig, you've got the 1 squid bling rig, and a float rig. 3 simple, 3 effective, easy to set up rigs that you cannot go wrong when it comes to winter squid fishing. Mix it up, find what they're biting on, always look at the locals to see what they're catching on as well. Colour, size can really matter when pinpointing and catching many squid. If you're using the wrong size and someone else is catching a squid, change over, mix it up. As always with the 2 squid jig, you can go 2 smalls, 2 large, 1 small, 1 large, 1 silent, 1 rattle, 1 with a light on it, which I don't really recommend because they break very easily. Mix it up and catch as many squid as you can. Let's do it.